I am just so hesitant to even have this conversation because we have not even, we don't, I mean, I'm just speechless that we haven't figured out services, or that we, like, our administration hasn't figured out how to have shelter space, like, where, and I mean, like, I get that there's like some sanitation and some nuisance like going on, and that there are actually houseless individuals who are being preyed upon, but I just don't even, I feel uncomfortable having the conversation without having additional resources in place for these folks. Okay, but I see where you're talking about. Thank you for directing me to the correct page. I'll continue my thoughts later.
Thank you. Well, Jennifer, you want to go first and do a round of comments, questions on both the proposed procedure and on this ordinance?
So, and I believe President Coughlin, Councilor Younger, when we met, one thing we talked about is the Ninth Circuit Court. It doesn't even say that, like, it doesn't even say you can have a blanket, or it doesn't even say, you know what I mean? Basic coverings. And so something, yeah, and so something that I'd like to see us make sure of is that with whatever we approve for our camping, that we include wording that's above and beyond the Ninth Circuit, and allow some sort of constructible in whatever area we choose. Another clarifying point, Councilor Goodnow, is that they cannot set up in parks. And Director Elevado will back me up on this. There's Parks Protection Act or something along those lines that prohibits camping overnight in our parks. So those areas are not available for camping. And I just wanted to kind of point out something that I, just a simple search of these three areas. We have Lakewood, Longview, Portland. They all have houseless shelter availability, some with day centers, some with little tiny cabins. I mean, like, even close enough to Tacoma. I mean, they have lots of options. Maybe not lots of options in Longview, but there's an option through Salvation Army. So as we're crafting this ordinance, we need to keep in mind we have nothing in our city. So we have no options until an emergency shelter opens back up for inclement weather. That is our only resource for shelters. So we can't necessarily rely on it is, and I really super appreciate the research that both of y'all have done, Mr. Ray and Ms. Fennell, on humane ways to craft this ordinance, location-based, etc. But I do want to just kind of, like, as we have this discussion, counselors, to just, again, these other areas have houseless shelter options right now today. They have a place that people can go to. So that's all I'd like to say about this as we think about it. Thank you.
Right. And then I'll look for some stuff to go to public comment next week. So Jennifer, go for it.
Thanks. Yeah, agreed. I think we should look at the Lakewood ordinance. Again, they have an ongoing partnership with Salvation Army, which I don't think is always the best provider, but they seem to be the most common. And I'd like to know, I do also believe that nonprofits can have a good handle on things. I'm not always a fan of necessarily the churches, but when receiving federal funding, there are rules that go with that, or even state funding. I think I just want to kind of just let y'all know about a couple other ways that houseless folks get in trouble while camping right now. Okay, so it's not that it's completely not being regulated. I think there is a little bit of squeamishness around it right now by the police department, but there's still two other ways that they're able to regulate illegal camping, which is trespass trespass. So if folks are trespassing, they're still being cited. So if part of their tent falls onto private property, that's one way that people are still currently receiving citations. The other way is disorderly conduct. So if it's daytime, which we don't really have an ordinance in place with times and so on. If it's daytime and they haven't moved along, and they choose not to, they choose to keep their tent up, then they can be cited with disorderly conduct. So these are two mechanisms that are currently being employed right now to regulate camping practices. And so that's something for us to look at too. I think I just want to make sure that we have not only just like public, regular public comment, but also that we're able to have some kind of technical assistance that we provide to somebody, to an organization like the Real Team, so they can continually give advice on how a new ordinance will be implemented and where people can camp. And so partnering with these organizations, I think, is a lot more impactful than our public works, our police department. They have very specific jobs. I mean, they're, you know, like they have, and thank you, Public Works, for providing some sanitation services, right? Like you're doing some cleanup, and super appreciated. Just as we move forward, again, one thing that I want to make sure of is that people can have a friggin' tent, and that they're given, that we receive some sort of, like, at least some sort of collaboration with an organization like the Salish Crew with the Real Team. I think this is probably going to take a couple rounds of public comment. We might even be working on this ordinance until inclement weather happens again. And until then, I mean, I don't know where people are going to go, you know. The last thing that I really want to say is that I do appreciate being reminded that right now we have an even more restrictive ordinance. And so I'm not necessarily a person that always cares about public perception, which maybe I should, I don't know. But the way that we really need to promote this is that our ordinance is extremely restrictive, puts us in a liability, and that what we're doing is not creating a more restrictive environment, but a less restrictive environment for our house as individuals. So thank you. I appreciate all of you.
I have a couple of questions.